Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera to our respected lecturer, which is Prof. Aweng, and my fellow friends. And today we are from Group 7 and we would like to present about our project, which is effective of EIA enforcement in Malaysia. Okay, next. This is our team members starting from Adit, Amirul Husni, Zakia, Fadilatul Husna, Nur Fatihah, Ainun Hidayah, Ismilia, Mawadah, Iliani Akmal, and lastly, Nisha Adila.
Thank you. For executive summary, number one, environmental impact assessment EIA is a vital environmental management tool that ensure development project carried out in an environmental sustainable manner. Number two, this study evaluates the effectiveness of EIA enforcement in Malaysia by examining the legal framework, the role of the development of environmental DOE, developer compliance and enforcement mechanism. Number three, the study was conducted use secondary data obtained from legislation, government report, academic journal, and relevant case study. Number four, the finding indicate that effect EIA enforcement contribute the environmental protection, pollution prevention, public health and sustainable development. Number five, however, several challenges remain, including limited manpower, indicator monitoring, with post-approval compliance and overlapping responsibility among enforcement agency. Number six, the study recommends strong monitoring system, enhance enforcement capacity, improving inter-agency coordination, and increasing stakeholder participation to provide EIA effectiveness in Malaysia. Yes.
Okay, so for background study, environmental impact assessment or EIA is an important environmental management tool used to evaluate the potential environmental impacts of development projects before they begin. In Malaysia, rapid economic growth, urbanization, and infrastructure development have contributed to environmental issues such as pollution, habitat destruction, and biodiversity loss. Therefore, EIA plays a crucial role in ensuring that development activities are carried out in a sustainable manner. Effective enforcement of EIA is necessary to ensure that developers comply with environmental regulation and implement the required mitigation measure. This helps balance economic development with environmental protection. So next, for the problem statement. Despite having established EIA regulation in Malaysia, environmental problems continue to occur. Issues such as pollution, land degradation, and ecosystem disturbance remain significant concerns. One major challenge is the gap between EIA approval and actual compliance during project implementation. In some cases, mitigation measures are not fully implemented or properly monitored. In addition, the Department of Environment or DOE faces limitations such as manpower shortage and technical constraints. Weak stakeholder participation and environmental awareness also reduce the effectiveness of EIA enforcement. Therefore, it is important to assess the effectiveness of EIA enforcement and identify areas for improvement. So next, for the objective. This study has 5 main objectives. First, to analyze the effectiveness of EIA enforcement in Malaysia based on existing regulation and case studies. Second, to evaluate the role of Department of Environment in monitoring and enforcing EIA compliance. Third, to assess developers compliant with EIA requirement and environmental regulation. Fourth, to examine the impact of EIA enforcement in environmental sustainability and human well-being. And lastly, to identify key challenges and propose improvement to strengthen EIA enforcement in Malaysia.
Literature review, fundamental and legal frameworks of EIA in Malaysia. Overview of EIA in Malaysia. Environmental tool for assessing project impact before implementation, introduced under EQA 1974 and formalized through the EIA under 1987. Required for prescribed activities which potential environmental impact. Mention Environmental Quality Act 1974, main environmental law governing pollution and environmental protection. Section 3(4)(a) requires EIA approval for prescribed activities and strengthened through amendment and the EIA Order 2015. Role of the Department of Environment and DOE. Main authority responsible for EIA administration and enforcement. Review and evaluate EIA reports before project approval. Has power to approval, reject, or impose condition on a project.
Next. Okay, next, EIA enforcement in Malaysia is governed by Section 34A of the Environment Quality Act 1974. Developers are required to follow all conditions stated in their approved EIA reports. The Department of Environment or DOE monitors compliance through site inspection, environmental audits, and enforcement action such as fines, stop work orders, and legal prosecution. However, enforcement is sometimes limited by manpower shortage, funding constraint, and overlapping responsibility between agencies. For successful enforcement, the Bakun Dam project shows how EIA conditions have reduced impact on indigenous communities. In Kuantan and Bukit Koman, public objection contributed to the suspension or modification of environmentally harmful activities. Another example is the Bayan Lepas quarrying case, where the DOE issued a stop work order after the EIA approval had expired, and the failed EIA enforcement. Island Towers collapse highlighted weakness in environmental assessment and monitoring. The Linas plant raised concern about insufficient environmental review and limited public participation. Meanwhile, the Bukit Selambau illegal factory operated without EIA approval before enforcement action was taken.
Enforcement in Malaysia has a both strength and weakness. On the positive side, Malaysia has established a strong legal framework for EIA, making environmental assessment mandatory for projects that may significantly impact the environment. The EIA framework is also considered comprehensive and has served as a model for social impact assessment. Furthermore, increasing public awareness has strengthened support for environmental protection and sustainable development. However, several challenges remain. Public participation is often limited and sometimes described as pseudo-participation, where stakeholders have little meaningful influence and decision-making. In addition, overlapping responsibilities between federal and state authorities, particularly in Sabah and Sarawak, can reduce the effectiveness of monitoring and enforcement. This weakness raises ethical concern. For example, the Linas Advanced Material Plant in Pahang generate public concern regarding potential environmental and health impact. Similarly, the Bukit Iban project in Pahang for orang asli community. Next.
Okay, now I will explain the method used to obtain information for this study. We use a secondary data collection approach because it provides reliable and comprehensive information without requiring field survey or interviews. The information was collected from various credible sources. These include the Environmental Quality Act 1974, the Environmental Quality Prescribed Activities, EIA Order 2015, publication and guidelines from the Department of Environment of DOE, as well as academic journal, research articles, books, reports, and new articles. These sources help us understand the legal framework, enforcement mechanism, and current issue related to EIA implementation in Malaysia. Several case studies were also reviewed to evaluate the effectiveness of EIA enforcement. The selected case study include the Bakun Dam project, Bayan Lepas, quarrying case, Highland Tower disaster, Linas Advanced Material Plant, and the illegal hazardous waste factory in Bukit Selambau. These cases provide examples of both successful and unsuccessful enforcement practices and allow us to examine the environmental and social impact. To ensure the reliability and accuracy of the information, data from different sources were compared and cross-referenced. In addition, only credible and relevant references were used throughout the study. Overall, the collected information was used to evaluate EIA enforcement in Malaysia, assess the role of the DOE, and identify challenges and possible improvement for a more effective environmental management system.
Okay, next for data analysis, case study will analyze and compare to provide a better understanding of how EIA enforcement is implemented in real situation. Successful cases such as MRT Sungai Buloh Kajang project will compare with unsuccessful cases such as Sungai Pun pollution incident. This comparison help identify the strengths, weaknesses, challenges, and areas for improvement in the current EIA enforcement system in Malaysia. For the data verification, information was cross-checked using multiple reliable sources such as government document, and academic journal. Next, for ethical conduct was maintained through proper citation, accurate reporting, and respect for intellectual properties rights.
Next, for the findings and discussion section, the MRT Sungai Buloh Kajang SBK line is widely recognized as a successful example of EIA implementation in Malaysia due to its comprehensive environmental planning and compliance throughout the project lifecycle. The project, which spans approximately 51 km and connects Sungai Buloh to Kajang, underwent a detailed EIA prior to construction as required by the DOE. The assessment identified potential environmental impacts, including noise pollution, vibration, dust emission, traffic disruption, and effects on water resources, allowing appropriate mitigation measures to be incorporated into the project design and construction phase. In addition, continuous environmental monitoring and public consultation were conducted to ensure compliance with environmental requirements and address concerns from affected communities.
Through the effective implementation of mitigation measures and regulatory oversight, the MRT SBK line demonstrates how EIA can facilitate sustainable infrastructure development while minimizing adverse environmental and social impacts. For the field EIA enforcement, the Sungai Gong pollution incident that occurred in Selangor in September 2020 is one of the most significant environmental pollution cases in Malaysia, involving contamination of a major water source. The pollution originated from an industrial area in Rawang, where effluent was discharged into Sungai Gong, a tributary of Sungai Selangor, resulting in odor contamination of the river system. The incident led to the temporary shutdown of 4 major water treatment plants, namely Sungai Selangor Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3 and Perantau Panjang Water Treatment Plants, affecting approximately 1.2 million water account holders in the Klang Valley. Following the incident, multiple agencies including DOE, Selangor Water Management Authority, LUAS and the Royal Malaysia Police, PDRM, launched investigation into the source of pollution and the compliance status of the responsible industrial facilities. As a result, the case attracted national attention and became an important example for evaluating the effectiveness of EIA implementation and environmental enforcement mechanisms in Malaysia. Next.
Based on the MRT Sungai Buloh Kajang SPK line case study, one of the strengths of EIA enforcement in Malaysia is its ability to identify and manage environmental impact before and during project implementation. Through continuous monitoring and compliance with environmental regulation, the project was able to reduce negative impact on the surrounding environment. This shows that the EIA system in Malaysia can support sustainable development while ensuring large infrastructure projects meet environmental requirements. However, the water treatment plant violation in Sungai Gong pollution incident 2020 highlights some weaknesses in EIA enforcement. Although environmental regulations are in place, pollution incidents still occurred, suggesting weaknesses in monitoring and compliance enforcement. Factors such as limited inspection, insufficient penalties and delayed enforcement action may contribute to this issue. Therefore, stronger monitoring and stricter enforcement are needed to ensure continuous compliance with environmental requirements. Next.
This slide shows how environmental law enforcement can affect the environment and people well-being. Firstly, the MRT SBK line project is an example of successful environmental enforcement. As a result, noise, dust and waste pollution were reduced while surrounding ecosystem were protected. In addition, the project improved public transportation, reduced traffic congestion and lowered health risks for the community. Next, field enforcement, Selangor Water Treatment Plant Violation 2022. In contrast, the Selangor Water Treatment Plant violation in 2022 show the effectiveness of enforcement. Due to poor compliance, the risk of water pollution increased and aquatic ecosystem were negatively affected. Furthermore, water quality deteriorated, creating health risks and disrupting daily activities. As a consequence, public confidence in environmental management was reduced. Next.
Environmental professionals have an ethical responsibility to ensure that development activities are planned and implemented in a manner that minimizes harm to the environment and protects public health and well-being. In the context of EIA, ethical conduct involves providing accurate environmental data, maintaining transparency throughout the assessment process, and ensuring that environmental concerns are not overlooked in pursuit of economic development. Effective EIA implementation also requires strong teamwork and collaboration among various stakeholders, including project developers, environmental consultants, and government agencies, regulatory authorities, and local communities. Such cooperation enables environmental issues to be identified and addressed more effectively while promoting informed decision making. Furthermore, self-management and professional responsibility are essential qualities for individuals involved in EIA processes, as they must ensure compliance with environmental regulations, adhere to project timelines, conduct regular monitoring activities, and maintain high standard of accountability. The successful implementation of EIA therefore depends not only on regulatory frameworks but also on the ethical behavior, collaborative efforts, and commitment of all parties involved throughout the project lifecycle. Next.
Okay, so next for the reflection, I have learned that EIA enforcement to ensure sustainable development by balancing economic growth with environmental protection and public well-being. So next, I pass to the Ainul Hidayah.
Other than that, I also recognize my responsibility to support environmental protection and compliance.
Okay, from my perspective, this study has enhanced understanding of the importance of EIA enforcement in promoting sustainability, protecting public health, and ensuring accountability.
For me, I have learned that EIA help reduce pollution, health risk, and protect ecosystem. Next.
For my reflection, this assignment helped us understand the importance of EIA enforcement in balancing development and environmental protection.
In my fashion, EIE, QA 1974 and DO evolved together to ensure sustainable development, environmental protection and compliance in which environmental regulation in Malaysia.
Through the assignment, I have learned all stakeholders must act responsibly to ensure sustainable development and to support transparent environmental governance.
For me, valuable knowledge for future career development.
From my reflection, I realized that environmental protection is a shared responsibility involving government agency, developers, environmental professionals, and the public.
And lastly, from this study, I have developed greater awareness in preventing environmental degradation and ensuring that development activities are carried out responsibly.
In conclusion, the finding of this study indicated that effective EIA enforcement is initial for ensuring environmental, sustainable, and protecting public well-being in Malaysia. Throughout the country has established the comprehensive regulatory framework for the improvement in mandatory compliance and enforcement required to enhance the overall effectiveness of the EIA system. By strengthening the aspect, Malaysia can achieve the more sustainable balance between economic development and environmental protection. I think that all from us. Thank you.